That's Ladanya. Oh my gosh. Our girl is a corpse. And he's a Texan. Lame. Yeah, I know that sounds like a weak plot line. I get it. You know what I'm talking about. Top notch. Heyo guys, how's it going? I hope you're doing well. This week, I just had my wrap up, all right? And to be honest, it's a good wrap up. I'm very excited. I had 2 5-star reads, honestly. Some were kind of meh, one I DNF'd, but I had 2, one was a 6-star, if I'm completely honest. It rivals Butcher and Blackbird for me for entirely different reasons. I don't want you to think that I'm saying that because it's similar to Butcher and Blackbird, because it's not, like at all, but it just, like, it stimulated me, man. Okay, so I can't wait to talk about that one, but we'll talk about that later on. So I have 7 books that I read in February. I kind of feel like I didn't read a ton. 2 of these are very short novellas that I read for Weird Ass Romance with April, of course. But one of them, honestly, I think I found one that beats the Mantis book. I've had a good month. I really can't complain. But the beginning of the month, honestly, was not good. The first one that I read was actually from the Sisterhood of the Traveling Book, which, speaking of that, the sign up for that is open right now over on my Patreon. If you want to be a part of that, I'll leave a link down below. That will close in a couple weeks and we'll start reading as of April 1st. Okay, so little snippet closed. But as far as this book, this was called Lured by the Dusk. I think only one of us liked it when I read it. The rest of us kind of just gave it 2 stars. It had a neat premise, but it's just not, it's not punching, man. The best part of the whole thing was this really cute gargoyle-like creature. He like stole the show and he maybe had 10 sentences if he was lucky. That says a lot right there. But it had a neat concept. It was just the execution wasn't there. The writing wasn't there. Literally the entire story, you kind of never really got to understand the 2 main characters at all. You don't really understand their wants. Like, you have a superficial idea of it, but understanding them as a character and kind of getting to actually truly know them as a character never really happened. Also, our main chick, you never really get a full description of what she looks like, so you just base it purely off the cover, which the cover's beautiful. The artwork is gorgeous. But I think it's like, I don't know, halfway through when they finally say her hair's black. So like, it wasn't quite there. But the whole concept of it was we have this girl who's staying with her aunt and her uncle. She is actually from a different city, but she's staying with her aunt and her uncle, and they're like the rulers of this realm, and she wants out. They treat her terribly, horrendously. She misses home and she's willing to do anything that she has to get back there. So she needs to fund this adventure. So she goes into this crypt where, if I remember correctly, it's like this ancient being that they actually supposedly revered, if I remember. And there's people who have left prizes around it. They left gold, things like that. You know, the things you put at a crypt, so they're gonna have it in the afterlife. She goes to steal that, but she ends up waking up this being, but it turned out that this was all a farce and he's actually this really bad guy. He's actually the Piper. This is basically a retelling of the Pied Piper, and he comes back into existence, really, claims her. There's this immediate attraction, never really explained. It's just that there's this immediate attraction. It's not fated mates or anything like that. So that's one of those writing things that I was telling you about where it just didn't quite, that execution didn't quite hit. But there's an immediate attraction. He claims her as his wife because he says that's just part of, not a curse, it's part of something. I know I'm doing a terrible job at explaining this, but I don't recommend it, is basically what I'm getting at. But he's threatening the aunt and uncle's city at this point, saying he's gonna do all these terrible things. He constantly goes back and is like, I'm gonna give you one more chance. But he does that like 5 times. But that's essentially the storyline, is we have a chick, she wakes up this being, turns out to be the bad guy against this city, and he's really good to her, but he still wants to do bad stuff to said city, and he keeps threatening them with it, but they kind of never really do anything. And the reason why he threatens them is because in the past, these humans have done something very terrible to his kind and have kind of continued to do that and to uphold that. That's the storyline. Just not completely well executed. So don't recommend that one. But the next one, what was the next thing that I read? The next thing that I read is actually my 5-star. That's not my paper, but we're gonna talk about that a little bit later. So the next one that I'm gonna talk about is Twisted Cross Ranch. Okay, which to be honest, I really thought like this month I wouldn't have seen it going up as much as it did, to be honest, until I read my like 6-star read. Again, we'll get to it. But Twisted Cross Ranch, Kayla Rain, and I want to say Stella Hunter. She's the one who does the voice, but she is also the author. Megan and Kayla Rain, the ones who did the Make Games. I told you I wanted to read the Twisted Cross Ranch series. That was in my last video about my 24 for 2024. And I did it, and I listened to it. It did not have Remy, first of all. I told you guys that. It didn't. I apologize. But it does have the guy who played Caleb, it has the guy who played Alec, and it has the guy who played Kingston from the first Make Game series. And this is that cowboy mafia sort of vibe. We basically have a girl who comes back to the Twisted Cross Ranch. Her parents were murdered a long time ago, which is why she left. And her parents were a part, basically monetarily, a part of the Twisted Cross Ranch. They were partners, if you will, with the dad of the Twisted Cross Ranch and the 2 sons who are currently there. This is a why choose, by the way. And she comes back because she was a part of their father's will. Okay, and that's how she gets reintroduced to them, and they already have a history, and it's complicated, if you will, and the business that they are into is also complicated, if you will, hence mafia. But I didn't like it until like the last 20 minutes. And I purely liked it at the last 20 minutes because of the voice, because it was Caleb, which I have to say something, okay? I know this is pathetic and I know that it's idiotic, but Caleb, okay? All last year, you guys know, he's my husband. I love him, a phenomenal actor, right? I have really bad news for you guys, okay? He uses the same voice for this guy, and like there's no Southern twang really. It still kind of sounds like Caleb, and Caleb was supposed to be Irish, and this guy's supposed to be Southern, so, and he's a Texan, so clearly there's an accent, but it wasn't there, you guys. It wasn't there, and it made me upset because all I heard was Caleb, and then it made me feel, again, I know this is idiotic, but it just made me feel like Caleb was stolen from me, and like he's not as real as he was, even though I knew that he's from fiction. Honestly, like it made me like it less purely because of the actor, because I just was like, this is my boy, this is my man. Don't take that from me. So I was really just kind of meh on it. Solid 3 stars. Probably wouldn't have gone above it. I just didn't feel like there was much going on either, you know? Like the heat's always good. You can always count on that with Megan and Kayla Rain. And there's some one-liners, not to the point of Make Games, but you know, I'd accept it. But the last 20 minutes, okay, my boy Caleb, the actor, like I said, I was very disheartened. I was. But the last 20 minutes, he comes back in as a new character who has to have an accent. And he nailed it, man. Oh, he nailed it. It was like this Russian mafia guy. Never been into the whole Russian thing before. But that's Ladanya. Oh my gosh. He was cute. The voice, man, it's good. It's good. I was in the car. Let me recreate the moment for you. I was literally in the car, just like driving along, just kind of like whatever, finish the story up so I can just get it over with. And then all of a sudden the Russian part comes on and I literally went, oh shit. I yelled that out loud. But I immediately texted the girls on Discord and I was like, oh my God, that's what you meant by the Russian voice. It was phenomenal. I can't fault them now. Like I was mad and now I'm glad. I'm gonna continue on. Honestly, if that Russian Caleb voice did not come into the fray, I wouldn't have continued on. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm thinking the next books are gonna have more action. I don't know, but that's Twisted Cross Ranch book 1, all right? Maybe give it a shot. But anyways, I digress, I keep talking. I could go on about Russian Caleb for days, but let's continue on. So the next one, this was a letdown. This was actually our pick for the Essential Buddy Read over on the Void Discord on my Patreon, called the Den Valentines. Because of Taurus, of course, for Valentine's Day. And look at the cover. There's a plane crash, there's this hot dude, there's dragons, there's icy mountains. Clearly this is meant to be comedic. That's what I thought. And when you read the synopsis, it talks about a corpse. Our girl is a corpse. He's a dragon dude. There's this massive plane crash, which I will say this, the description of the plane crash and like how, when it was up in the air, because actually before it crashes, some stuff goes down in the air. That was well done. That was very creepy. I am terrified of flying. Great job on that. But the rest of the story, lame. It was way more serious than I thought it would have been. I thought it was supposed to be like funny, more on like my weird ass romance side and just be very quirky and different and silly. Not really. And I wouldn't really call her a corpse. Like when he finds her, technically she is, but that's because she's like frozen in the snow. It's like, you know, she's an ice cube. So she's just frozen in time. But it's basically that she just can't die. I wouldn't really call her a corpse, but she's like a human girl who got like hexed or something like that. And then she's on this plane and it crashes, but it like somehow goes into like this portal. So she ends up crashing into this mountain, which is nowhere near where she was at. There shouldn't have been any mountains where she was at the time that she was flying. So she moves into this other world and everybody's kind of stuck there and has a multitude of different things. You have like witches and vampires and dragons, all sorts of things. And she ends up meeting this dragon dude because he's trying to hunt some other dragon because everybody who lives in this world is terrified of the dragons and blames them for this stuff. So he happens upon her corpse body and, you know, he picks her up, takes her down the mountain where it starts to get warmer and she starts to thaw out. All right. And they just start to get closer to each other. I didn't mention this. I technically didn't finish it. I DNF'd it. Steph finished it. Okay. She said this is really not much to look forward to. She wouldn't really call it a romance either. But the whole thing, for how far I got, I think I got like 60 or 70% of the way through. It's more serious than you would think. It's almost more on that fantasy romance side of things. And it just has a really silly, quirky cover. And the synopsis really isn't telling you what the book is really like. Okay, so 2 stars. That's what I'm gonna give. Well, I can't give it 2 stars. I DNF'd it. But if I did read it all the way, probably 2 stars. So anyways, I digress. Next one, Red. So this was actually recommended to me, and this is smut, okay? And it knows that it is smut. And you had mentioned actually that it knows exactly what it is and that it's really, really dirty, and just to expect that. And I did. And the author literally writes a note telling you like, hey, this book knows what it is. This is what's going to be happening. Be okay with it and read it, or don't be okay with it and don't read it. You know, so she's very upfront about it. So I have to say that. But it's a Little Red Riding Hood sort of reimagining, and it's about 90% smut, 10% plot. And it's just kind of, I don't know, like the author said, it is what it is. It's okay. I don't know. I really don't know how to rate it. It's just kind of, you need to be in the mood for that, I guess. But we have a girl who moves to this cottage because her grandma died and she was in the will, but her mom doesn't really want her to go there because she had issues with the grandma, all this stuff. So she takes over the cottage. She ends up knowing that she's being followed. So she's well aware that someone is stalking her, but she's never met who it was. There's this other sort of government-based dude. I don't think he's the governor, but he's trying to like show her around, and he's a hunter, if you will, but he's kind of like this cocky bastard. Not the guy you want. And our wolf dude, he's never really truly shifts into his human form. He's a werewolf, of course. He turns out to be the stalker, but he kind of exists in 3 different phases. He can be a full-on human, but it's very hard for him to stay in that form. He can be a full-on dog, or he can kind of be in between a wolf and a dog. A wolf and a dog? A wolf and a human. Okay? So his face, he's got a snout. He can't properly kiss. There is a lot of kissing scenes. He can't properly kiss, but he's very, is it anthropomorphic? Anthropomorphic? But, you know, furry and dog face. So if you're ever into Beast from Beauty and the Beast, which, I mean, I was, you could probably get into it. But it's just, I don't know. It's very fast paced. I don't know how, I don't know. I don't know, guys. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to talk about it. I don't think I know how I feel about it, to be honest. I think I wish there was maybe a little bit more plot, but you can't fault it when it's up front telling you, hey, this is 90% smut. You like it, you take it. You don't like it, you leave it. You know, it's a Little Red Riding Hood reimagining. Take it at that, 90% smut. Cool beans. Let's talk about the next one. Ooh, so the next one. Okay, before I get into my weird ass romance books, because I always end with that since I will spoil the hell out of them, the last one is my 6-star read, which I know not everybody felt this about this book, but for me, this was the perfect book where it's a romance and it has a really good storyline and it makes you think. Like, there's just, the character development is so amazing. This is definitely a character development story, and the storyline itself is dark. I wouldn't say it's like crazy dark. This isn't any sort of stalking sort of thing situation, but the things that do happen and what is done to your main character is pretty severe. And you're going to be reading it, but it's not like a toxic romance relationship. Everything just makes sense. And that's what I appreciated. That's why this is 6 stars. Like, I finally found something that can do that dark romance, but there's an explanation for it. It's not that simple throwaway line of, but I know I shouldn't feel like this. It's not like that. Like, you're really actually getting to see why someone would do something like this. And also, another reason why I love this is we have this godlike entity, and he's actually described, and he acts like this all-powerful godlike entity. It's not God, because it's Pestilence. Sorry, I know I didn't say the name of the book, but I'm obsessed with this book. Laura Talisa, I honestly went in with no expectations, which is probably a good thing, because I think I probably ruin things for myself most of the time. But Laura Talisa, she wrote the Rhapsodic book, and I could not get behind it because that was the one that reminded me of Grapes of Wrath because of the flip-flopping. Does it actually have any similarity to Grapes of Wrath? No, but it just kept flip-flopping in time, and it was just messing with my mind, and I went back to junior year. It was a lot. I honestly judged it before I started reading Pestilence and just being like, I'm probably not gonna like this. But holy cow, that was amazing. I'm not religious. I just wasn't raised that way. But it made me think, like, the questions that it was bringing up, and just like getting to see Pestilence experience humanity, and he was experiencing the worst of it, really, because obviously we're trying to save ourselves, so want to unalive Pestilence. But seeing him grow with his interactions with our main character here, with Burns, is just so good. Like, he is a virgin. He is not used to like eating, drinking, all that sort of stuff. He's not used to seeing humans be kind, things like that. So really getting to see an entity like that experience these new emotions as he experiences these very human-like things was so good. Like, she wrote that so damn well. She really did. And it's a slow burn. It's definitely something where you're watching them grow, because they full on hated each other in the beginning. Enemies to lovers all the way. It's over 5 stars for me because it like tickled my brain and made me question things, and just I was kind of like putting little puzzle pieces together, and I was starting to think, oh, I wonder how he would respond, and then getting to watch him respond in a certain way was just so good. And there is steam, there is spice to it, but there's like an intimacy to it, which makes sense because it's the way he's trying to experience things. He's not looking for a one and done, quick and dirty sort of thing. You know, he's falling in love with her, and he wants to experience these things with her. And so funnily enough, it made me think of sex differently because of the way he saw it, because he was so new to it, because he is a virgin and he had never thought that this would ever be happening. He never even wanted this to ever to be happening, first of all. So it was just such an interesting experience reading that book. And it was amazing to be able to do it with the annotations, because this was actually another Sisterhood of the Traveling book. It was great. And I think maybe because it does have that darkness with the stuff that does happen to her. And when I say it is dark, I would put it in the realm of torture. Okay. I think having those annotations and having the experience of reading my friend's thoughts while I'm reading stuff like that helped, you know? But I can't wait for for the other books, which I already know Steph is going to have that be her book. I would highly recommend that you read it. It was just so interesting. The writing was just superb. The storyline, the character development, like she knew everything, everything. There was no plot holes. There was no little extra questions that I had that was left unanswered. Everything was just beautifully done. Beautifully freaking done. Oh, so good. But yeah, Pestilence. I highly recommend that you read it. Anyways, I will stop gushing about it. Anyways, my last two, my smutty little weird kooky books, which also did not disappoint. I'm gonna give you all the details for it. So if you don't wanna hear it, go ahead and jump off the video. Otherwise, let's get into the nitty gritty. Okay, so the first one, this was Man Whores in Outer Space. This was the one that April, like she could not get it out of her mind. Just the name, honestly. She couldn't get it out of her mind. She really wanted to read it. So we started off with it. I liked it better, I think, than everybody else. Tiff, also, she joined us from Tiff Stellar Reads. I'll link her channel down below. She had read this prior and she was telling, she's like, just the way that they describe things, it's just not good. So I went into this being like, oh no, this is just gonna be corn with a P. And to be honest, it is. But I liked the descriptions. This was one of the kookiest books I've ever read as far as the descriptions, all right? But the storyline, we have, I think it was like 4 chicks who like, they're just in like the middle of nowhere. I think they're in the South and I think they have a twang, but they're basically outside. It's Friday night. They got nothing to do, but they want to have some fun. And this alien ship comes down. The alien boys come out and the girls are just like, ooh, this looks like some fun. I want to have fun. And the aliens, the alien men are looking to hump one out, okay? Like, I'm just gonna be straight with you. Like, they want to get it on. That's what they're looking to do. They feed off of the cream, okay? Yeah, so they invite the girls in. They give them this drink, which April has a really great point. They drugged them, but they, start to get frisky and the guys take advantage of it. They, like I said, they like to eat the cream, and so obviously that's where they start. All right, but then they go into this zero gravity to where everybody's like floating, including said cream, and that's just like, globs just around, just moving in the air, and the guys start swimming through the air to like gulp it up like fish, and it's described like that. Okay, so like there's some beautiful lines in there, but there's just some lines in there that are just the kookiest thing I have ever seen in my life. It basically continues on that way. The girls will then, reciprocate to the guys, and then that stuff ends up being in the air, their stuff, and the girls start pretending to be fishies. Actually, they started to be fishies before then with like, just pretend that the thing for the guys, their thing, pretend that those are worms. It's described that way too. They're worms and the girls are the fish trying to come up and grab it and stuff. Yeah, I thought it was hilarious. Just because the descriptors, you gotta give credit where credit is due. It wasn't just like some generic stuff. It wasn't generic smut. There is that comedic sense and very original sort of descriptions. I had fun. I don't know. I gave it 4 stars. Judge me if you want. But anyways, the last one. This one's 5 stars. It beats the Mantis for me. It's either comparable or it beats it. Personally, I think that it beats it. Mantis is still April's favorite. But this is one where like, oh my God, this is talent at its finest, okay? The author knows what's up. Literally reading his author's bio in it, that's all I have to say. But this was pounded by Pluto. Yes, that's a great cover. I can't buy it. I want to buy it. I want to display it on my shelf, but he doesn't offer that, and I'm really bummed by it. But this is literally, as you can tell just from the cover, this is about doing a planet. Okay, well, I can't say that. It's not a planet. Doing Pluto. Okay? We have a guy who's on Earth. He's very unhappy, kind of angry, to be honest. And he thinks Pluto is just like the worst planet and it's like so dumb. So to make himself feel better, he's gonna fly to Pluto and live on it just because it's gonna make him feel better because he can just make fun of it all the time. Yeah, I know that sounds like a weak plot line. I get it. It's hilarious. But anyways, in this time, spaceships, easy peasy lemon squeezy. So the guy goes to this, I can't even remember his name. It's a play on Neil deGrasse Tyson. It's hilarious. Just read the book. I'm not gonna full on spoil this for you, okay? You need to read it. You have homework, all right? So I'm not even gonna say all the things that happened in the book because you need to read it. I made my husband read it. You need to read it. We have a guy, makes fun of Neil deGrasse Tyson, gets a spaceship, goes to Pluto, lands there. The Pluto can talk, all right? And he's lonely because no one's ever really come by him because he's so far out, you know? But he's super lonely. And our guy, he starts to be like, hey, this is nice. I like you. Ooh la la. And then something happens. They commence. They come together. And our boy, the human guy, he gets off. But Pluto doesn't. And that's just rude. So, of course, this mountainous thing, you know what I'm talking about, comes up. Think the picture. Comes up and our guy, actually I'm not going to describe it. I'm not going to describe it. That's a great scene. Our guy has to help get Pluto to his big O moment. He tries, you know, but he's just a pipsqueak of a human, you know? So he gets into his spaceship and his spaceship basically becomes a flashlight. Okay, let's be honest. That's really what it was. And that's how they get Pluto. All right? And everything happens. I'm not going to tell you the ending. It's very exciting though. There's a lot of good stuff. Okay? And there might be other books for the other planets. Did I do a great job at explaining that? No, but that's because I don't want to tell you everything because I want you to read it. Okay? I don't want to tease you like that. You need to read it. The lines, you guys, the one-liners, the puns, top notch. Is it Shakespearean? No. Mantises, I feel like this is some sort of other writer though. I'm not sure who, but it's phenomenal. All right. Anyways, those are the books that I read. Thanks for sticking around because I know I was gabbing for a while. On a last little note, because this is going to be coming out before the readathon, the Alice in Wonderland readathon. I know I've mentioned that in the last couple videos. My timing's been off, but that's happening March 17th to March 31st over on my Patreon. Free members and paid members both get to participate. So if you would like to be a part of that, I believe that's going to be starting a week from the posting of this video. So March 17th to March 31st, there's going to be activities. If you're a paid member, there's artwork that you get to win. There's prompts. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a game night. We have reading sprints. If you're a paid member, then you also have that game night I just mentioned and the movie night, all that jazz. So looking forward to that. If you'd like to join, again, links down below. Otherwise, we will see how March is going to go. Okay, I'm very curious. But anyways, I will catch you guys next week and you have a good one. Bye.